Most people glance at the ancient, mystical corners of the card catalog and see mere relics, but Tsukuyomi stands as a masterful exercise in cosmic isolation, anchoring an entire subdimension of lore without ever needing a single line of flavor text. Let's bypass the surface level and dissect a canvas of profound nocturnal serenity. Visually, she completely abandoned standard fantasy tropes for an aesthetic deeply rooted in celestial geometry. Her cascading lavender hair flows with an almost liquid weight, cutting sharply across the deep sapphire vortex that threatens to swallow the background entirely. Those intricate facial markings aren't primitive tattoos, they function more like specialized dermal maps charting stellar trajectories across a stoic, unreadable countenance. Look closely at her pauldrons. Instead of metallic armor, we find organic, ocular nodules, literal eyeballs staring directly into the viewer, perfectly mimicking the omnipresent watchfulness of a night that sees everything. The absolute focal point of the entire composition rests tightly in her grip, an iridescent, fractured sphere that looks less like a magical prop and more like a captured miniature supernova, bleeding localized gravitational distortion into her immediate atmosphere. It's a stellar design that really waxes poetic without saying a word. Her personality isn't defined by loud, aggressive malice, but rather by a calculated, frozen detachment. She represents the absolute zenith of the transient spirit cast within the grand ecology of the Duel Monsters universe. These entities aren't your typical flesh and blood denizens or gear-driven mechanical constructs, they operate as ephemeral manifestations of primordial concepts. Tsukuyomi serves as the quiet, regulatory mechanism of this ethereal ecosystem. Within the game's internal narrative, her nature dictates that she cannot remain permanently anchored to the physical coil of the mortal realm, constantly dissolving back into the shadow world. While fiery entities like Susanoo or the blinding radiance of Amaterasu dominate the daylight myths of this universe, Tsukuyomi commands the quiet, interstitial spaces. She is the silent connective tissue linking the primordial parents Izanagi and Izanami to the rest of the spiritual pantheon, acting not through destructive warfare, but through inevitable, cyclical intervention. Think about her relationship with catastrophic entities like Hinokagu Tsuchi or the Yamata dragon. While those monsters represent apocalyptic, unbridled destruction that burns out or consumes everything in sight, Tsukuyomi represents the soothing, dark cooling effect that pacifies the world. She effectively pacifies the volcanic wrath of the spirit realm, resetting the state of reality itself before things completely spiral out of control. Now, the real-world historical divergence here is where things get genuinely wild, so prepare to have your phases shifted. In traditional Shinto folklore, Tsukuyomi no Mikoto is predominantly recognized as a male deity, famously born from the right eye of the creator god Izanagi during a purification ritual. Yet, the visual architecture of this character deliberately subverts centuries of classical text by presenting a strikingly feminine form. This isn't just a random aesthetic whim, it's a calculated thematic restructuring. By transforming Tsukuyomi into a lunar empress, the designers established a perfect, dualistic symmetry with the sun goddess Amaterasu. It frames the celestial cycle of the spirit world as a beautifully balanced feminine dichotomy rather than a chaotic masculine-feminine clash. The night ceases to be a mere absence of light and becomes a deliberate, feminine counterweight to the blinding solar order. This unique speculation implies that the game's internal mythology operates on an altered cosmic axis where lunar power is intrinsically tied to feminine mystique, rewriting ancient cultural paradigms into a compact, visual masterpiece that completely eclipses traditional folklore.